How's it going, everybody? Let me check. How's the sound okay and the video okay? Hello? Somebody? Let me check. There we go. Hi, Brian. How you doing? Mark? Hi, Mark. John? Good to see you. Good. Okie doke. Hi, Kinasaki. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, Eric. Hi, Eric. Hey, another Eric. We got two Erics today. Not unusual. Hi, Mark. Mark and Mark. How you both guys doing? Okie doke. Th- what I wanted to talk about today, this morning. Hi, JJ. This morning we were talking about trying to find watches that had that some people with major players, so to speak. Um, for example, we talked, well, there, I should say, important watchmakers in watches like this one, Richard Harbring, and this one would be, let's see, Daniel Roth. In fact, it is a Daniel Roth. And what I really wanted to take a look at today was to try to find, well, okay, if you first of all, if you find a watch with a special watchmaker, you got to know that watchmaker's special. I mean, if it, it could be Joe Blow. Well, that doesn't, who cares about that? But on the other hand, how do you identify the ones who are really top? And one thing I thought we could do is that we could start with the AHCI, the Independence Group, and these guys are all of them are good. They've got to be approved. They go through a process. Hi, Lix, Jose, good to see you. Lee, hi, Lee. Yeah, my special watch. Yeah, I got my special watch. Here's my special watch. This is my special band, as a matter of fact. I just got this yesterday. What happened was that this is my Jean Rousseau, yeah, Jean Rousseau. I almost said Ricard. Um, that I got for my Etude number one, and they sent me an orange one originally, and now it's been a couple months. They had to go and make this one for it. Anyway, thanks, Brian. Okie doke. So what I did, I started doing this, and I realized I could get up to a certain point, and I also wanted to ask you guys about this. Is that any of these watchmakers? Do you have any watch, either the whole thing or a part by any of them? And like I said, I just sort of got started on writing down, and I was looking up all of these different people, and I thought, my God. So let me start off with the two original founders of the AHCI, Sven Anderson and Vincent Calabrese. Now, with both of these watchmakers, you can find, relatively speaking, affordable watches. One of the ones that Calabrese made that is really interesting is called the Golden Bridge. And I think it's on, I forgot the name of the company that they have them, but it's this really amazing movement that just sort of goes like this. So, hey, Eli, how you doing? Um, so he that's one thing, but he has some other ones. He came out with one a few years ago on with who is that? It involved these characters from it was either Greek or Roman gods, and uh it it was really fascinating. But another fascinating thing was the artist who did the work on it, and that's by Vincent Calabrese, and it is very affordable, relatively speaking. Okay, some of the other ones are super affordable. So I mean, there is one guy now, Sven Anderson's, his stuff that he had this one world timer or Christopher Columbus, and they used to be really good prices. And I always thought about getting one, but I didn't like them because the case was a little small. So those are a couple guys. The guys who are the both founders also had some watches that were relatively affordable. Um, okay. Um, all right. Now some other ones that aren't affordable. I recently did a thing on Aaron Bexley. His watches are fantastic and they're just way out of not touchable. Now, a new guy, Cyril Nadeau, is a young guy. He's a young French guy, and I just love his watches. They're looks like sort of something that Abraham Louis Breguet would do, and he has one. You wind up with a key. Wonderful watches. None of them are near what we'd call affordable. David Candu. David Candu stuff is sort of interesting. He has sort of this like a I think it's a pop-up crown. You push something and out pops. You can't see the crown otherwise. It's sort of an interesting watch, but his stuff is way too expensive. Now, Konstantin Chaikin, he's the one with makes the watch with the googly eyes. Some of his may be available at a relatively decent price, but I'm not positive. I think there are a lot of knockoffs of his stuff. Um, so that's another thing. Philippe Dufour, no way. None of his are. Guys whose stuff I like is Paul Gerber. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's got a lot of things. You can get them brand new for around 5,000 for this an interesting watch with this triple rotors in the back. These and they're gold, and they're really very relatively speaking. Some of his other ones, I really like his watches. Now, a lot of them, the ones that are affordable, they'll put an ETA based movement in it and do something else to the watch to make it more affordable. Um, okay, let me see. So Paul Gerber, I think you can find some that are relatively affordable. Stefan Kadoki. Yeah, I mean, comparatively, his stuff is still, I mean, it's been going up pretty quickly. I think when he first had his first Kadoki one, it was around 6,000 or something like that, and now I think they're up around 10, but they haven't gone into outer space yet that I can see. Um, Marco Lang. Now, there's really two Marco Langs. One Marco Lang was all of those wonderful movements and watches he made for the company he founded, Lang and Heim, and then got moved out of because of some financial thing, I guess. It's not unusual to happen. It usually happens to the very best watchmakers because they're great watchmakers, terrible businessmen. All they care about is making these wonderful watches and movements for people like us. Now, if they can make them that we can afford them, even better. Usually, they usually oftentimes they don't. Now, Marco Lang, there's one thing that's done by Marco Lang that was relatively affordable. I don't know if you can get them anymore. It was called the UWD 33.1, which is a movement. So they originally were around $1,000 or so, and then they just went up. And finally, from what I understand, they don't sell them anymore. Either the 33.1 or the one that they dolled up and called the 33.2 that had the center seconds. Um, Bernard Lederer. Recently, I had a thing on him, and he had a sort of a group of ones he did some years ago called the BLU, Bernhard Lederer United. Okay. So that's those. There are some affordable by his if you can find them. Antoine Prezuzio. Yes, you can buy brand new ones from him. I think as low as around 5 or 6 thousand, and then on the pre-owned market, lots of ones by him. Now, Andreas Steller is he he helped. There's some movements in other companies like Garrick. I think they want their first movement that they had that was pretty much in house. He helped design, and then another company. Oh, I can't think of the name of it. Yeah, it's not named after him, but he also helped them. Now, if you get an Andreas Steller watch, those are pretty pricey still. Okay, let's see what you guys have. You help me out here. Hi, Jonathan. Um, Chaikin has collaborated with a Chinese brand, and they're offering a Joker for 2 to 3 thousand. I'll be darned. Thanks, Eric. I saw a whole bunch of them for that price. I thought, wait a minute. So I guess he is. So that's good to know. Um, oh, Ahsoka's initiative in creating Corono. Ah, Eli, that's one thing I wouldn't agree with you on. Okay, here's why. I mean, basically, he all he did was sort of design the dial on that. Now, I agree with you that his fans, he did this for his fans. The first day they come out, and he sells them for around $1,000, something like that. Really a good buy, and they're gone the first day. The next day, you see them on eBay for triple that amount. But I don't know. There's just not enough there. I understand what you're saying though, and it's a nice thing to do, but uh there's a really much of him in there. That's it, the ML106. Maurice Lacrosse. That's who I was thinking of. Thank you. That's exactly who, and that was based on the Venus 175, right? That was the one I couldn't remember. Um, so I mean, you can get these if you can find a Maurice Lacroix with an ML106. You can have a watch with essentially an Andreas Stellar movement. I mean, that's one way to go about it. Whether it would count or not, I don't know. It would with me. I'd love to have one of those. Um, Genta hasn't been so popular. Tissot PRX. I don't think he was ever a member of AHCI though. I may be wrong, but I don't think he was. In fact, yeah, I'm pretty sure he wasn't. Um, his things though, I would put him in the same class as that. He's a real tricky guy to he designed the Royal Oak, which was one of his most famous ones, but he also designed the Nautilus, I think, and some other ones that were far, I mean, just like incredible watches are incredible designs. But as far as making watches, he had some interesting retrogrades. I'm not sure. He would be one I would certainly count as having finding something by him. He and Daniel Roth worked together or they were there at the same time for at Bulgari, and they did some watches that were had their names on it, and they really did some stuff with those. So that's another source of Genta and Daniel Roth. Um, yeah, I agree with you, Eli. Yeah, the Corona. You know, it's really hard on a lot of these. There's the thing that I like about Ahsoka did it for his fans, but he couldn't afford to, make a whole watch for him. You know what I would like to see? I'd like to see every great watchmaker make a base movement that would be relatively available and affordable. Just time only, just a real basic one, and then people could go out and put together watches like Larique did. Hi, leisure time. What's up? Still need a hint for a neon vintage gold watch. Okay, this is these are boy vintage. I don't know where vintage starts anymore. There's some that were started back, like in the 80s, and they still make them today. There aren't a lot of them, but there are, and I don't know whether they count as vintage or not. Pasha de Cartier, UG pole router, Bulgari, Omegas, Lapis. I'll tell you one. This is sort of one we don't usually think of, and to me, they stunk it up with putting in a silicon hairspring. It's just about every Omega with a Daniel George Daniels escapement. Now that's a neat thing, but then you put, I don't know, there was something. I mean, that's like putting in plastic bridges or something. They just put it in a silicon hairspring. I don't know. It sort of becomes it, instead of, it stops being an Omega and starts being a swatch. I think the same things happen to some extent with Block Pond, Blanc Pond, and with Breguet. That's my opinion, and you know, they have these watches that they should have messed with. I mean, improving them in the sense that they're taking traditional horology and adding, for example, adding a um what is it, Fuzian chain, or adding a egalite, a remontoy egalite to it. That's one thing, but adding some other stuff doesn't sit too well. Truman, did Genta design the first micro rotor at Universal Geneva and is designed at Urban Jurg Urban wait, UG inspired Paddock to create the golden ellipse? Ah, Truman, there was some kind of thing. I got a feeling that Genta did do the golden ellipse, but never really got credit for it. Now, the golden ellipse, the interesting thing about the golden ellipse is that it was, the golden part was on the golden ratio. There's another name, phi, I think, is the formula for that. It's a really interesting formula. It's sort of, you can see it in the Fibonacci sequence. I read this. I get Patek Philippe sends me their magazine that comes out every now and then. It's a wonderful magazine, but boy, I tell you, anybody who ever helped them ever, they don't get credit. I'll put it that way. There was an article. It was in French. The only one I was able to get my mitts on was a French article that was from the Patek Philippe magazine on the Fiedler hands, and they were going on about what wonderful hands they make and blah 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 blah. And but they never said that they used them, nor did Rolex. The reason I know that, we did, and we gave them credit for it. But yeah, that those things. It's sort of like with watchmakers, we're playing a game of liar's dice, and the dice are loaded not in our favor, and so we've got to dig. Let's see what you got. Let's see what you got, Eli. Um, let's see. Uh, Beret went on. Brigade went on to this. Wait a minute. 240 micro rotor for Paddock. Barrett. I'm not sure who that is. Okay. Genta only designed watches, Omega Constellation, Universal Geneve, Pole Router, Patek Philippe Nautilus, AP Royal Oak, but I never heard about him designing movement. You know, I tell you who else said that, Eric, who's the gal who is the editor or one of the big cheeses She's also a judge, a Grand Prix judge who writes for Quill and Pad. There was some kind of conversation that she was involved in, and she said that Gerald Genta never made a movement. So, hi, Dark Star. Golden rule is one third and two thirds, something like that. It's called the golden ratio. It's yeah. Well, it follows the. Oh God, I used to know the formula for that. But a little more than that. I think it's 1 to 1.63. If that's one third and two thirds, then that would be it. Dark Star. Yeah, pi is no, no, not pi, phi. There's a different one. Phi, PHI. That is where you have the golden ratio. That's 1.63 to 1. Reverso is another golden ratio. Oh, there are a lot of them. You know who was also very big on it was Michel Parmigiani on the hands on my Kalpa, on the Kalpa watches, the hands are 1 to 1.63. The minute hand is a 1.63. The hour hand is a 1. And so I had read that Parmigiani was a big fan of using the golden ratio in his designs, and I was always looking for it. I finally found it in the hands. Yes, Eli. It's not golden rule, it's a golden ratio. Right. Yeah, it's phi. Exactly, laser time. Yes, 1.63. Okay. So you're saying I should get a Kalpa? Absolutely. Get a Kalpa. I love Kalpas. There's all kinds of them too. I tell you, you can find some. They don't I I think they sort of quit making them, or they quit making them the way they used to. So if you can find a good deal on one, I love mine. Hi, Hazy Eagle. Golden ratio is found everywhere, also on watches. Rates of rule of thirds, Langenheim, yeah, Langenson, yeah, everyone uses them. I mean, that's sort of one of the major design things, and you can trace it back to the ancient Greeks use it in their buildings. Yeah. Pythagorean triangle with the angles of 36 divided and 108 degrees. Yeah. Um, there are all kinds of interesting things like that in the math of it. Okay, who are some other ones? Now, there's some. I have a watch with a movement and a partial movement by Jean-Marc Viderec. But the interesting thing about him, even though he was the first one to receive the Grand Prix Watchmaker of the Year, he never joined or the AHCI, and I'm not sure why. Maybe he just didn't feel like it. Who knows? Um, that's sort of an interesting thing. Kalpa head Hedo Madari 8 day. Yes, still a great. Oh yeah, that was one of Michel Parmigiani's first designs too. Yeah, you just have to sort of wait until the right one comes along. Those are great watches. I never got one. I sort of was one of those things. I had the Kalpa, and it looked so much like the Kalpa that I passed on it. Um, but that is a great movement. Here's a watch that has that movement in it that I would love to have, and that's the Parmigiani Ovale pantograph. That's just a classic watch. Wow. Yeah, you're right, Rix. They are expensive. Okay, who are some other trying to think of some other people. I didn't have time to get all of the the people who were in the AHCI. Do any of you guys? Who's some other ones? The ones I see: Sven Anderson, Felix Baumgartner. Felix Baumgartner has a Ur, Urwerk, Urwerk. And I thought, oh boy, some of those may be deals, but I couldn't find any that were that wood. Let's see, Calabrese. Yeah, you can find some good deals by him. You know, a guy you don't hear about, you don't hear watch collectors talk about too much, is Antoine Prezuzio. Um, he has some really interesting things, and he's one of these watchmakers that seems to have two levels. He's got watches, what we might call the affordable level, and then he has these. I think it's like a triple tourbillon. He makes really amazing stuff. What happened to Gerard Barrett? Never heard of him. I let him go a year ago, listed for about 4,500. Ooh, ouch, Truman, that was slipped away from you. Didn't Omega come up with a new hairspring? Maybe they did, Jim. That you mean it's not the yeah, no, I know the one you're talking about. You're talking about the they came up with an adjustable uh silicone hairspring. Yeah, I don't know how adjustable it is. I think it is a little adjustable. But yes, you're right. They did that. Beat Holloman. Um, yeah, his stuff, I would love to have one of his. His stuff, he and Vianney Hall are, I don't know if there's anything that either one of them has done it is anywhere near affordable. Yeah, Spirate. That's the one that's an interesting thing. Right. Yeah, Jose, that's the one that I wonder. I saw some stuff on that, and I really wonder how much adjusting it has. And I got a feeling that most watchmakers wouldn't want to touch it. Like they're going to adjust it just a little crack. I don't know. Yeah, not affordable. You're right. Um, but anyway, so what really I was hoping to sort of start thinking about, rather than buying the watch or the watch brand, you're buying the watchmaker behind it. A number of years ago, about oh, 6, 7 years ago, there was a special Grand Prix award for three watchmakers at Vacheron Constantin who made the most complicated watch. For years, um, El Lara, from 1900 to 1988, I think, 1988. Yeah, a long time. The most complicated watch had been made by El Lara. Then Patek Philippe came out and they made a more complicated one. It was 86, 88, sometimes in. And then I think it was around 2013 that Vacheron Constantin came out. Now they have the most complicated watch. I saw it. In fact, I even touched it and I got in trouble for it because I was so fascinated by it. They had it at, I think it was one of the early watch time shows that they had. I think it was the second watch time show that they had in New York, and I saw one there. And those three guys, I don't know what happened to them though. See, you can have some people at Patek Philippe, at Audemars Piguet's, and some of these other places who are just like super watchmakers, but you don't know who they are. I until they go out and they become an independent. And then if you look at a lot of these independents, you'll see that they work for one of the top watchmakers at one time or another. The early Parmigiani models are now discontinued. They are, yeah, collected man guide. Oh, well, yeah, guide away from exploding. Yes, yes, indeed. It's a brand I've always liked, and I would it's a very good brand. Um, people didn't like the, style, though. I think it was the design style. They wanted something a lot more traditional than what the Parmigiani had. He had really unique ones, and now the ones they have, the new ones they have look pretty, they're safe, put it that way. Hi, Eugene, how you doing? I tried the winding mechanism, was smooth as silk. Ooh. Now, is Truman, is that on the Hebdomadari? Peter Spark Marin has some affordable pieces. Oh, Mark, great, you're right, he does. Those are some other ones. Yes, I agree. He used to be an AHCI. He's a former member. I don't know, same thing with Tristan Vanderklaw. Um, I have one of his watches, but he's sort of not in it anymore. He just sort of, a lot of these guys, some of them for one reason or another leave, and I'm not sure why, what the deal is with that. Okay, well, my timekeeper's not here, but I see I'm out of time. But anyway, I did want to talk about that. And there's some other ones like, oh, what's this? I keep forgetting these guys' name. My French pronunciation is just abominable. Um, but another guy who turned out he was a protege of Philippe Dufour, Roman Gautier. His stuff is, I really like his stuff. There's no way I can afford it. So, but anyway, maybe he will have something more affordable. Anyway, guys, thank you for putting up with me for an afternoon, and take care, be safe, and we'll see you later.